We all have emotions, lots of them. But what is emotional health? Hi, I'm Jane Mott, a makeup artist and beauty coach. I'm passionate about sharing simple tips and advice that women over 40 and beyond can use daily to look younger, feel energized and confident. Makeup really is just confidence in a tube. I'm joined today by Vanessa Louise. Vanessa is an emotional health coach and speaker, and today we are going to talk about and discover more about our emotional health. Vanessa, please introduce yourself.
Jane, hi, my lovely. I'm so pleased to be here with you. My name is Vanessa Louise, and I am an emotional health coach and speaker. When I was a little girl, I just wanted to help people feel better about themselves, which is why I got into cosmetics, which is where we met. And then through my own adversity, I learned how to overcome my challenges, and that needed me to be in my very best emotional health place. So that's how I now do what I do today.
Great. That's really interesting. Not everyone is going to understand what an emotional well-being coach is. And how do you define emotional well-being? How does it differ from mental health?
Mental health is what we think. Emotional health is what we feel. So there is lots and lots of talk out there right now about mental health, and quite rightly. But there's not an awful lot out there about emotional health because people don't really want to feel their feelings. They just talk about them and they label them, but we don't actually want to feel our feelings. However, the two are intrinsically linked. So if mental health is what we think and we're sending out the thoughts into our world and our existence, then our emotional health is what we feel, and that's the magnetic charge that brings it back to us. So often we're very good at becoming aware of the fact that our thoughts have got to change. We can recognize that we think the unlovely when we're judging or complaining or criticizing about ourselves or life or other people. But we don't often recognize that the two are intrinsically linked, and that the fact that if we're thinking unlovely, we're going to feel unlovely. And that's the biggest block. So that if we can begin to think more lovely thoughts, the power comes from when we allow those lovely thinking thoughts to affect how we feel. And also if we can begin to feel more lovely from being able to manage and control our own emotions, then we have a lot more of a more harmonious existence in life.
Yeah, I think I definitely felt that myself yesterday. I got overwhelmed by a situation, and just hearing you speak then, I can see that I needed to just sort of come, like you say, come back to myself. So how does emotional well-being contribute to personal growth and success in both professional and personal realms?
Oh, I love this question. What a good question. I think for me, ultimately, when we are feeling that we are in control of our emotions, that we know how to use them and we know how to manage them, we are able then to keep ourselves a lot more present in the moment. Not only is that where our power is, but that's where we feel more centered in who we truly are. We're undistracted by the noise in our heads. We're undistracted by the chaos in our outside existence. And it's learning, as I mentioned earlier, with whatever is going on in our outside world, and also the unlovely thoughts we can have in our heads, those rubbish stories that we make up to be true about ourselves that just aren't. I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other, that keep us limited and stuck. That is what will keep us, I suppose, from evolving personally, but also keeping us going around in vicious cycles in our businesses and in our lives. When we learn how to drop from our heads into our hearts, and therefore more intact with our emotions, and if we remind ourselves that emotions are energy emotion, that's it. As a human being, we want to label what we feel as angry, sad, happy, joyful, excited, fearful, whatever. But let's bring it right back to basics. Emotions are simply energy in motion, and they just want to flow. So remembering that the humanness of us wants to label it. But if we can understand that it's just an energy that wants to flow, and that when we bring ourselves back to our centered place and drop from our head into our hearts, We keep ourselves in the present moment. We're centered in our truth. And therefore, that way then, as we're here to live a joyful existence and to grow with life, then we're guided by the truth of our hearts rather than the noise and the chaos that lives in our heads and in our outside worlds. So that's for me how emotional health keeps us, it benefits us in our businesses and our own personal evolution, is that we're guided by what's really true for us by being more in the present moment.
Yeah, and I can certainly relate to the little monkey sat on my shoulder telling me negativity, and I can definitely immediately remembered that you were one of the first people that taught me about positive affirmations and using them to drown out the negative little monkey so that I could control my emotions, I suppose. Not control, but keep them on a more even keel and not get carried away with the I can't, I won't, I shouldn't.
Exactly. Where when you're aware of them. So therefore, when you're aware of what you feel, you can then choose to take ownership of them rather than them taking ownership of you. And so many people allow their emotions to rule the roost, whereas emotional health, that stability that we need, that certainty that we're all seeking for, because nobody likes the unknown. If we can learn to become really present with what it is that we're feeling and allow it to guide us because we're aware of it, then we are, like I say, we're likely to have a more harmonious existence through life for sure.
And something else you've taught me that's just come to mind as well is that we tend to think of emotions of I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. And I can remember doing some work with you a few years ago. In fact, it probably was just a conversation in your car, but you'd already sent me a list of emotions.
Yeah.
Every day I'd say my back's giving me a lot of pain, and it was like, what sort of pain and how are you feeling? And I, rather than just, oh, the pain's dragging me down, I sort of looked at the list. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit jaded today. And I actually loved that because it wasn't just, yeah, I'm in pain. And that's too general. It's too, I needed to like really get down, right. So I'm feeling a bit jaded today, or it's a sharp pain, or I know, and it sounds simple, but I was just thinking, my emotions were happy, sad, angry, sort of upset, and that was it. And they were all just too general.
That's exactly the point. And if we look at the scale of emotions, and I love the law of polarity, both ends of the stick exist. Something, one end cannot exist without the other, meaning we can't have a North Pole without a South Pole. We only know hot because we know cold, and we know up because we know down. We only know happy because we know sad, or we know fearful, which is why we know pleasure, right? So whatever we have taught ourselves to believe is true, the human experience means that we are able to experience all of these emotions. So many people live just here with happy, sad, angry, tired, excited, right? That's it. That's the minimal emotions that people will allow themselves to feel, because even though we're all seeking for that real euphoria in life, right? That's what we're all seeking. If this 100% euphoria exists, then the 100% of the unlovely also exists, and we don't want to feel that. We will do anything in our power to not feel the unlovely, which is why we stay so centered in just fine, okay, same old. These are the kind of ways that we tell people how we feel. Whereas what I love to help people do is let's hold the space for you so you feel safe, loved, and non-judged, right? How are you feeling? Well, actually, I feel like a bag of shit today. Okay, cool. Let's just be with that. And then that will open up some more emotions. Or actually, I feel super excited. Okay, talk to me about that. What else is around that excited feeling? Well, actually, it's kind of fizzy and it's joyful and, I feel a bit on edge. Okay, well, but what we're doing is we are expanding our capacity to feel, because we're so programmed to feel limited. So as we start to expand, What we do have to appreciate is if it's 10% lovely, it's also 10% unlovely, and it's embracing both ends of the stick so that life and our energy can flow through us, which gives us that harmonious feeling, because we are going to feel like we're on the crest of a wave, and we are also going to crash on the beach, right? Just as sure as day is night and the sun comes up after the moon is out, right? We are going to feel like we are on euphoria, flowing in euphoria, and we're also going to feel like we're crashed dead on a beach, right? Both are going to exist. So it's about, how do I remain centered and just allow the energy of my emotions to flow through me? And that's what takes such practice. That's emotional health. That's self-mastery.
Yeah, and I think I've even experienced that this week, because Tuesday I had a great day, so I was surfing on the wave at the top end, and then Tuesday evening something happened and I came crashing down, and I went from this end to that end, and it was just like, oh my God, how I was a bit in shock, really. How can I feel like this when I've had such a good day?
Yeah.
And I carried it over into Wednesday, unfortunately. So yeah, I think it's a common misconception.
Definitely.
And I think that's really clarified how you would explain that to your clients.
Well, I think also as well, we think, and I know you just mentioned misconception, I think a lot of the time, and in many conversations, especially right now, actually, which is why I'm so passionate about my work, we don't think that feeling is important. We don't give it the credit that it is due. When we numb ourselves out with busyness or codependency or, I don't know, alcohol or cake or exercise or whatever it is.
Sorry to interrupt. I actually think a prime example of that is the British attitude of, how I it? I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
And because so many of us don't express how we actually feel, or are scared to be vulnerable in what we feel, then we follow the herd. Whereas, not that we have to, how are you? Oh, well, and give everybody a sob story. Or, oh my God, it's utterly amazing, and verbally vomit on somebody because you're having an amazing time, right? But it's about just, can you just be vulnerable enough to say more than fine, more than okay? You know what? Today is a really great day. I'm doing fabulously, thank you. Or even if you don't want to share what's going on, unbelievable. Today is one of those days where I am just giving it my best shot, and let's just be a little bit more vocal in our vocabulary rather than just fine, okay. And the more you can begin to practice, and of course, this is why it's so important to surround yourself with people that love you, right? So you can practice with the people that aren't going to judge you for practicing, right? So when, like, my family, and particularly my dear friends, know when I am learning how to incorporate a new word into my vocabulary, because I use it everywhere. Like, for example, a little while ago, it was congruent, right? How can I use congruent?
Oh, I love
Exactly, right?
Brilliant
So
word.
when I hear a new word, I like to be able to use it wherever possible, because I like to expand my vocabulary. Equally is true of, if I feel something, I want to see how I can express that within my life, not just because I want to grow, but because I want to be a leader, or should I say like a trailblazer in, can I invite you to share how you feel? And if somebody's asking you how you are, and you're saying, you know what, today I woke up feeling fizzy. I woke up feeling like I really just wanted to get on with it. And then, I don't know, I tripped over the cat and I landed my tights and I started to feel really grumpy. But because of where I am right now, and it's really lovely to see you, I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm just going to go with the flow as best I can today. So today, in this moment, I'm just going to choose to be present. How are you today? And you're not going to get, or you might get fine and run off. But somebody else might say, oh, do you know, that's really interesting, because, I woke up feeling such and such, and actually at the moment I'm feeling this. So you're just inviting people to inquire and get curious about what they are actually feeling. But you've got to be, for me, I've found that I've got to be okay in being that myself, regardless of the response I get from other people, and that's being vulnerable. Because if people just go, you're just weird, I have to be okay with that.
Yeah. I'm weird too. I think also as well, if someone says, how are you? And they might have sensed that there's something a bit off and you go, fine. It's almost like you're being a bit moody with them. It's like, they're like, well, I know you're not fine. And you're going, oh, and then everything's a bit prickly.
Yeah, and exactly. And also as well, I love it when, because I think Brené Brown talks about this, doesn't she? As she says, you know, until you've been through your own troubles and you've really got to grips with how you feel in life, don't judge me on how I'm living mine. And I think if you can get in touch with your feelings and you can have a high emotional intelligence, right, which is learning to manage and use and control your emotions, then you are able then to be with somebody else to help them do the same. So if somebody is a bit stroppy and you're sensing that they're a bit off, then you being centered in how you are and how you feel, who you are and how you feel, then it doesn't matter what the other person says or doesn't say back. They'll get from you that you are a safe space to just be unhappy in, to be stroppy in, to be moody in, because you're not judging them. Because we never know what's going on for somebody else. But until you are able to hold yourself in that place, then you will judge, you will see people from the filter that you are coming from yourself.
I've just sat here thinking this is amazing, and that, you know, like children with ADHD and stuff like, and those sort of things, because we tend to label everybody far more now than we used to.
Yeah.
Diagnose them and put a label on it, would really benefit from this, because they, and people bipolar, and they have these extremes of emotion, and just learning these skills to control it.
Oh, it's massive.
Just sort of popped in my head while you're talking.
Yeah, and particularly with, dare we say it, those that are labelled with, you know, ADHD or autism or whatever, you know, they're actually the ones, you know, and Abby's little son Isaac and his autism, he's actually the one that's showing us how to actually feel. They're the ones that are more in touch with how they feel, but they're struggling in a world with people that are trying to conform them into being logical. They don't want to be logical. They want to be present in the moment. And that's where we'll feel our feelings, is in the present moment, which is why we are so easily distracted, and we want to be distracted. We cause drama and distractions for ourselves, and we're attracted to it because we don't want to feel what we feel in the moment. It is, and that's again,
our feelings.
Exactly.
Trying to hide from them.
Yeah, massively.
So, I mean, I was going to ask about how the wellbeing, emotional wellbeing coaching impacts individuals and businesses, but I think we're sort of covering it in itself.
Massively.
If you've got any success stories you want to share or add to.
I think the most profound success story I have for how this works when you work it is my darling sister Abby, who you know. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer in December of 20, the back end of lockdown. Yeah. Happy-go-lucky girl, just, she's such a joy to be around. And that was a big, big challenge for her. And she was already doing some of she was already in the bliss groups, the coaching groups that I run, and doing the naked work, which is the philosophy that I share. So she was already doing that. And that was working for her. But when she got her diagnosis, that meant that she was forced to live and breathe this work, because it was potentially going to take her life, this disease. What this work had done for her, and learning how to manage her emotions, to free the emotions that she'd trapped that were eating away at her, to understand how she'd got to where she'd got to by the choices she'd made and the choices she'd allowed others to make for her, all of this stuff, which we all do. We all have trapped energy within us. And because that energy wants to flow, if we don't give it an outlet, if we don't recognize it, become aware of it, if we don't acknowledge it, accept it, we cannot allow it to flow. So therefore, it will eat away at us. And that's what we have come to understand disease is. So therefore, this work was essential for her to understand her emotions, to give herself the opportunity to love herself enough to open up herself, to give herself an outlet for that emotion. And dare I say it, and there are many people who contest to this, she sailed through her breast cancer journey, her chemotherapy, with a smile on her face. Yes, she had her down days. Yes, there was times where it all went a bit tits up. But generally speaking, on the whole, she managed and lived through that journey with utter grace and a smile on her face. And she will be the first one to tell you the testimony is this work saved her life. She says I did, but I don't take any credit for that. I will say to her, I just am the one that was holding the space for you to do the work with your energy. That's it. And it saved her life. And she continues to work with this work now with the pain that she's in from having reconstruction surgery and all the other complications. That just because she's free of cancer now, thank God, it comes with other symptoms from her medication and all of that. And she is in constant pain a lot of the time, but you wouldn't know it. Why? Because she consistently works to keep herself open and spend as much time in her heart as she can rather than her head. And that's what this daily work does. You can't wash on a Monday and still feel fresh on a Sunday. You can't eat all your food on a Monday and not, you've got to do it daily. It's a daily choice.
Yeah.
And that, because our heart is beating in every moment. So we have to be in the moment as best we can in every moment. We can't kind of store it up. We do, and that's where we get off center and cause ourselves pain.
The best analogy to use in modern day life is we all have smartphones, and if you don't charge them,
exactly.
They die. Just go. So yeah,
petrol in your car, all of it. Yeah,
things daily. And from Abby's posts, not only did she sail through it, she spread joy as she did it.
Yep.
She going in for her chemo treatment, she must have lifted up the other I bet they all hoped Abby would be having hers while they were having theirs, because she just, and I know she put on Facebook that friends were asking her, how are you doing this? And she did refer back to yourself. And it was incredible to I mean, obviously I'm on the Isle of Wight, I'm a long way away, but to sort of watch from afar.
And I think also as well, because I know we're really keen on building businesses to be able to support other people. If you are in business, please remember that you are at the center of your business. So therefore, if you are emotionally well and stable and healthy, your business will be. You can't have a healthy business without a healthy business owner.
Yeah.
So therefore, when people say to me, do you do business coaching? No, I do people coaching. I do healthy coaching. I do energy coaching, emotional coaching. I want you to be in your best possible state so that you are then inspired by your heart to grow your business rather than making up some idea that will take you way off. So that's how emotional health can support. And they are the success stories in business, are the success stories of the individuals. Profound.
Yeah. That makes sense. It reminds me of the situation of, again, if you don't, your phone works best when it's fully charged, and it's a bit like mothers, isn't it? They give out everything to their family, even the dog and the goldfish before they think about themselves. But if they don't look after themselves, they can't be the best they can be for the family, the dog, the goldfish, and everybody.
Totally.
So, I totally think we need to be more aware. So also from knowing, obviously I've known you a number of years, and I've already mentioned I've had different bits of mentoring from you over the years. And when I sort of first met you, you had decals all over your car and butterflies. And it was very much about transformation. And I am very lucky to have both editions of your incredible book, Butterfly Whispers. And I've also been able to share that with and gift it to friends who've then been delighted. So can you sort of share with me how that book came about?
Yeah, I love this story. It's interesting, isn't it? Because when we're in it, we just wonder where on earth it's going and what's happening, and nothing seems to make sense. But back in the this would have been late 90s, maybe mid 90s, I wanted to create a phone line because my parents are amazing, as you know, and they brought us up with what was known in the 80s as PMA, positive mental attitude, right? And we spoke about this a lot. There's lots about mental state and how to think positively, right? Thinking positively is great, but it is paint on rust if we don't deal with the everyday emotion, the energy, right? So what I wanted to do was create a phone line where I could invite people to just dial in and hear a positive message and invite them to be self-reflective, to invite them to just be present for a minute or two. That's it. No biggie, 20 minutes, half an hour, 90 minutes, whatever it might be. Just wanted them to hear a positive, friendly voice that had something interesting, inspiring, refreshing to say, and then just spend a moment to reflect on it. But then my ego, my story of you're useless, what would you say, no one would listen, all of that story would come into play, right? This is such a boring story for me, by the way, the fact that this is what's going on in my head the whole time, not the actual story I'm sharing, but my inner critic of you're useless, you're unworthy, no one would listen, you talk rubbish, blah, 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 right? So then I was like, okay, maybe I won't do the phone line. But I had this dream for about 10 years. And I kept putting it off. And then in 2010, I'd just become a director with a sales company and was leading a team. And I thought I'd love to be able to support them every day, whereas rather than we were just doing meetings once a week. The interesting thing is we were training the girls in the business how to run their business, how to sell the product, etc. But I was getting calls in the week because they'd known how I'd turned my life around. How do you do what you do, and can you help me with this, that, and the other? And I was answering their questions. All the questions were different, but the answer was the same. And I thought, there must be a way I can do this once to many. And then that's when the idea of the phone line came back in. And I thought to myself, no, I can't do that. I don't know about technology, blah, 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 blah. Then the next morning, one of my team members rang me and she said, I was going to email you, but I just needed to hear your voice. Right, great. That's it then. 2 days. Set up the phone line. I used my granny's old mobile, you know, those old Nokias that used to bounce.
Yeah.
So I had that, and I would change the message every morning at 6 o'clock. You know, when you say, hi, my name's Vanessa, please leave me a message after the tone, right? So you get 60 seconds. I don't know if you know that, before it cuts you off. So I would record a 60-second message, and it would have to be scripted, otherwise, because I can talk, so it will cut you off. And then I changed it every morning. I'd turn the phone off, and I told all my friends and family and all my sales team and colleagues that that's what I was doing. And we had hundreds of people ringing in. And then I even remember going to a networking event, and there was somebody I never knew came up to me and said, "Are you the butterfly lady?" And I said, "Probably. Why'd you say that?" And she said, "Because I ring your phone line every morning." It's like, wow. So we worked out that she was like a friend who knew this person knew this person knew someone in my team. So like 3 or 4 people removed. So we did that for a whole year, and we turned it into a book. I was encouraged to do so by colleagues, and I did. And then that was published 2013. So it's 2010 we did the phone line. And then fast forward to 2020, I'd started doing the daily messages again after I was taking people through my masterclasses, until somebody a couple of months ago said to me, why aren't your messages available for everybody rather than just the people going through your masterclasses? And I said, because I'm scared. That's it. I just want to do it to my little group of 40 people. And they looked at me and I was like, okay, actually, it's a bit selfish, isn't it? So we've recreated that phone line from 2010 that was called Butterfly Whispers to now being called Bliss Whispers. And the reason it's called Bliss Whispers is because bliss stands for boldly live in sweet surrender. And we can only live in the present moment by listening to the whispers of our heart. So every morning I record a message and I send it out to anybody who wants to sign up Monday to Friday. They will get a personal message from me that's audio, is about 90 seconds, and a complimentary and a accompanying image with it that will give you the opportunity to listen. You've got to press the button. It arrives straight in your phone. You just got to press the button and listen, reflect, see how that applies to your life. And even in the few days, we only launched it a few days ago, even in the few days that we've done it, I've had messages saying, this message today made me think of this, 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 and this. I'm so happy that I got to understand this because of what you said here. So it's inviting people. There is only ever an invitation to, could you just sit with yourself for just a moment to clear this noise by dropping into your heart and just be with yourself and just see what your heart's trying to communicate with you, because that's what's going to guide you, not this. So we want the heart to feed the brain, so that we think from our hearts, and then we make better choices. We have more fulfilling connections. Our relationships just feel so much better, all because we calm the noise down by listening to our hearts. And sometimes we just need a bit of support and encouragement in doing that. And that's what the daily messages were and are now all about. And also to keep you consistent, because like I say, you can't wash on a Monday and still smell fresh on a Sunday. Yeah. And consistency is the key, the self-discipline to do it. So it can't be any easier as the receiver than just pressing a message that comes to you. That's it. And the invitation is to do it as soon as you wake up. So it's there before you wake up, and it's to do it as you wake up. Not that I would advocate you reaching for your phone as you wake up, but if you need the help in the meantime to become present, the message is there. Press play, shut your eyes, listen to it for 90 seconds, and just spend a moment or two contemplating and just feeling what your heart is asking of you. And yeah, see how you go, and just see how you can apply it throughout your day. It's simple, but because it's so simple, we don't give it the airtime.
Yeah, I mean, when the first one came through, I'm delighted to be receiving them. I sort of was like, oh, I've got to do this, got to do that, and I sort of started getting on my day, and then a bit later on I thought, oh, I never listened to the bliss message. So then I stopped and I listened to it, and it just sort of, I was still having one of these days where I'm trying to do everything and like we do, and we're rushing about, busy fools sort of thing, just getting on with our day. And I just sat and listened to it, and I thought it was almost better than a coffee break, because I literally sat, listened to it and thought, that is genius, absolutely love that. And then I just felt calmer as I moved on. So instead of feeling sort of like that, I was then sort of like sailing calmly.
It's the intention. Yeah, it was that's my intention for creating them, is to give you the place of that sanctuary that you won't give yourself without practice. But I'm inviting you to join me in that place, and that when you do, you'll go, and then as the days go on and as it comes in, you'll go, yesterday I felt so much better, so I'm going to listen to that earlier. Actually, yesterday I felt, so I'm going to listen to. And then after a while, you're in this pattern and this new habit you're creating for yourself, because someone has invited you to be still with yourself. You know how much better it feels. You can then choose to do it for yourself. That's
Absolutely.
It.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, and we will come on to a little bit later about how listeners can get their own little bit of bliss, and how they can actually start, sign up for that. And I still, every so often, I come across your Butterfly Whispers books. There is one in my bedside cabinet, and also I've got one in the bedside cabinet in my spare room, so that when visitors come, and it's a bit like in a hotel, you open it and there's the Bible that would used to be put there. No, it's Butterfly Whispers. But there's something about that book. People just take it out and open a page. They're intrigued. What's Butterfly Whispers? And then they're like, oh my God, that book you left in the room. I just opened it and read the message from, I don't know, whatever day they opened it on. And, it's really resonated well with them. So,
Love that.
So to have the message delivered to your inbox as well is great. You haven't got to remember where you put the book. It's true though, isn't it? So how would individuals recognize emotional distress in themselves, and perhaps even in a colleague, a friend, a family member? And what can they do to offer support and understanding?
Oh, I love this question. First of all, it begins with us, right? So if we can recognize within us where we are off kilter, where we're maybe not feeling great, and we can, what was your question? The emotional distress, was it?
Yeah, signs of emotional distress.
Yeah. So that would be basically if somebody is anxious, or if they are withdrawn. So if they're on edge and they're a bit flighty, and sometimes you're sitting with people and you just feel exhausted by being with them because they're all over the place. And they go round the houses, and they're you can almost see they're not connecting. I've got a friend that she's and she just is not making the connection. She's in her brain, but she's just not making any sense, because she's just so busy, so much on, that now when I spend time with her, I sit there And I won't say her name, but let's just call her Jane. It's not you, but let's just call her Jane. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, Jane, breathe. And I just try and hold that person in my heart. But I can only do that because I've done the work for myself, right? Equally, if somebody is withdrawn and it's like trying to get blood from a stone, if they isolate themselves, and if they're complaining a lot, people who are moaning, people who talk about feeling defeated or superior, these are often signs that somebody is not in touch with their emotional self. They're not in touch with themselves. They're off center. Obviously, things like anger, displaying unlovely behavior, talking unlovely things about other people. How else could you? If they are somebody who just mindlessly eats, maybe somebody who drinks a lot, maybe somebody who avoids eating, these are some of the obvious signs that we might not think. We might just think, oh, that's just who they are, or that's how they cope, or whatever. But these are real signs. The obvious ones for me, which so many of us do, is when we hear judging, complaining, competing, moaning, that kind of thing. And just, who can you be for that person? The amount of times I say to my friends or my colleagues or anyone I'm working with is, who can I be for you? Who do you need me to be for you? And they're like, I don't need anything from you. I don't need you to do anything for me. And I was like, no, listen to the question. Who do you need me to be for you? And it gets, even if it just stops them in there, wherever they are. And I just say, who can I be for you? And they're confused. But in that confusion, they stop thinking about what was stressing them out. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, interestingly enough, when you ask somebody, who can I be for you? You've got to understand what you're asking them. You're asking them to have a think about what they need, right? So to answer my question, they have to think about it's okay. So who do I need Vanessa to be for me? Okay, well, what do I need? If they're feeling frustrated or angry, they just say, do you know what? Maybe I just need you to just give me a hug. Maybe I just need you to sit quiet and listen to me. Maybe I do. Could you just pick the kids up for me? Who could you, whatever it is. But by doing that, they've started to admit what they need, and they've had a look at what they need. And then by doing that, what I'm actually asking them to be is, who do you need to be for you? I can be it for you, but I'm just really redirecting you back to you. But having the wherewithal, the compassion, and the understanding and the strength sometimes to be there with someone is just such a gift. But you can't be there for somebody else if you are not there for yourself first. You can't recognize somebody falling apart at the seams if you're falling apart at the seams. I mean, you can, but you might fall apart together, and that's a different conversation.
And there's no one there to pick either of you up. Yeah.
You know, and then, but that's the caveat to all of this, right? You might recognize a depressed person, you might recognize an anxious person because that's who you are, absolutely. But if you want to be the best self for somebody else, you need to be it for yourself first, and that's where we struggle.
Well, I think also while you're talking there, I think sometimes we identify it without realizing we identify it. Like we might say to someone, oh, you know, Susan, you're really quiet today.
Yeah.
And that's okay. They've got something going on. So
yeah.
And it's not necessarily saying, you know, because I think in the British people, we don't want to be nosy. But yeah, I think the way
you can be caring. It's the vocabulary you use.
Yeah.
And if your demeanor and your presence is calm, and you're just whether you recognize that person, maybe physical touch is a love language of theirs, could you just hold their arm and just say, I'm just sensing you're a bit quiet. And even without asking, are you okay? You could always just say, I'm just going to go and grab a coffee. If you want to join me, I'll be there for you. So you're not even asked, because people who are struggling often don't want to vocalize it. Yeah. There are people that go, I'm having a bad day. I tripped over the cat. It's the cat's fault, and now it's your fault, and all the rest of it. And we get a lot of that, right? But people who are really, really struggling and really seeking and wanting to do something about it, even if it is just to listen, aren't often going to want to talk about it. So just by recognizing, I drive past your house every day, you know, on the way to work. Would you like me to pick you up tomorrow? or you know, I haven't got to get home tonight, the kids are out, would you like to stop off for a coffee somewhere? So then it's a yes or a no. But really what you're saying is, I see you, I'm here for you, I'm here, I'm listening. And then that's up to them. All you're doing is sending out the invitation.
It validates them as well, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we've sort of covered the roles self-awareness play in enhancing and becoming more attuned. Are there any simple daily practices or habits you can recommend that we can easily incorporate into a busy schedule? Obviously, we've mentioned, and we're going to explain a bit how they can join the Bliss Whispers, but is there any other sort of little daily practices or habits? I mean, I've immediately thought of one myself to ask.
Yeah.
Like I said, when stopping and listening to the Bliss Whisper on day one was better than a coffee break. So, but if there are any other sort of little practices or habits, myself and other people can
definitely. I like to keep it as simple as possible. So we call it KISS IT, right? Keep it super simple. So I could tell you journaling, I could say play music, but if you're stuck in traffic or you're in the middle of a presentation or you're caught up in something where you can't break away and do those things, they're brilliant tools. But the first tool I always share with people is whenever you begin to feel unlovely, and let's just label, if we're labeling both ends of the stick as lovely and unlovely, this is euphoric, this is down in the dumps, crashed on the beach, right? And anywhere in between. When you are feeling anything unlovely, right? So that could be irritated, frustrated, sad, angry, whatever. Then to keep yourself in the present moment, which also applies to the lovely feelings, but we want to heal the unlovely that is coming up in us. Pause. 1, 2, breathe. 3, feel your beating heart. It's as simple as that, because you can do it whether you're washing up, in a presentation, getting off to sleep, driving the car, cleaning the bathroom, whatever it is you're doing, in a conversation with somebody else, you can, while listening, pause, breathe, and feel your beating heart. It will actually make you a better listener. The reason I suggest, and it's as simple, not easy, but it's as simple as 1, 2, 3, is because when we pause, we stop where we are. We stop that cycle that we're in that's causing the unlovely, right? Whether that is a feeling of unlovely or thinking unlovely, it's coming from both, but we put a pause in it. 2, we take a breath. When we take a breath and we place our attention on our breath, where is your attention when you take a breath in? Where's your attention when you take a breath in?
Well, it's within you.
It goes straight to the chest.
You're breathing the air in.
Even if you're thinking breathing, your attention goes down to your chest, nearer to your heart, right? Then when you can feel your beating heart or place your hands on your heart. So pause, breathe, feel my beating heart. By doing those things, it takes 3 seconds and staying there for a minimum of 10 seconds. So maybe 1, 2 breaths, right? What you've done in that moment is dropped from head to heart, plain and simple. This is where we think, this is where we feel. If we are experiencing anything unlovely outside of us or inside of us, pause where you are, drop from here to here, because your heart knows best. Your heart is where you truly are. Your heart is what will guide you, because there is one power that's turning the world, growing the grass and beating our hearts. And if I can tap into that massive, or that power that's orchestrating everything via feeling my beating heart, which I have access to in any moment, it means then that I'm no longer getting caught up in my thoughts, and I can inspire then my thoughts to come from my heart. That's it. So 10 seconds minimum. Everybody has that, whether you're on the loo, in the shower, brushing your teeth, flicking the switch for a cup of tea. Everybody has 10 seconds. And when people say to me, oh, I don't have time, rubbish. If you haven't got time when you're feeling unlovely to pause, breathe, feel your beating heart, you've got bigger problems.
Yeah.
That's the one tip. That's the one
I think
thing.
is absolutely brilliant. And I've heard you say before about coming out of your head and into your heart. And I've often thought, yeah, that's great. I'm not sure how I do that, or that's something I'm going to have to work on. And then as soon as you said that, I started scribbling because I thought, oh, I get it now. That's like the penny has dropped.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, breath. 3, present. And there's your power in the present moment. And we think we know what we're doing, and we think we know best. And some of us, most of us, all of us have got some blimmin' great ideas. But do we want the ideas that we think are great, or do we want the ideas that we feel are great, that we know is, that's why we've been placed here. So that's ultimately the first place I will always go, because you don't need any tools, you don't need anything, you've got everything you need, and you are being breathed. You're not breathing. So even when you're running about doing crazy things and you're feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, like we talked about earlier, you're being breathed. Your body is already breathing you. Something's breathing you. So whatever that thing is that's breathing you and digesting your food and all the rest of it, tap into that, because that's going to have a better idea of where to go next than you are.
Yeah, because that makes sense. Because if we're doing the breathing and we're busy doing other things, we're going to forget to breathe, and then we're going to be laying on the floor dead, not being able to do anything because we've stopped breathing.
Well, exactly, because if you're not breathing, you're not.
Silly, but that's.
It's as simple as that. Yeah, it does. And then ultimately, sometimes people struggle with that, right? So the next simplest thing I've got is most people have access to a tea light, and if you haven't, just stare at a light, right? And again, just stare at the light, concentrate on your breathing. A flame is brilliant because it moves, right? So you're focusing on the movement of the flame and just stare into a flame. And I just share this so often. And I've been ridiculed for sharing the simplicity of this. How is that going to work? And when you try it, you'll see. But if you struggle to meditate, stare into a moving flame. It's one of the most natural things there is. It will give you heat. It's fascinating. And as long as you're using it safely, you just concentrate on staring at your flame and concentrating on your breathing. You will naturally find you drop out of your head and straight into your heart. You'll find you'll go, oh, this is silly, or how is this going to work? Pause, breathe, feel my beating heart, stare into the flame. And that's just if you need a bit of help to just become still. The flame will mesmerize you enough to take you out of your head. So just two, I've got many more, many more, but they are two really
from my
simple.
spiritual work and development. We talk about connecting with energy, and sort of the energy of, specifically of past spirits, but energy in general around us. It's not something we can physically see. So within the spiritual development, the closest thing to it that we can understand as a human is the movement of water or the movement of fluid, because it ebbs and flows, and energy is always moving.
Yeah.
Water is always moving, and water tries to fill the space. So if you spill water, it tries to go as far as it can and take up as much of this available space. So that, when you were talking about the flame, made me again think of the water and that being an energy.
And one of the tools that I've taught 5-year-olds to use it and 105-year-olds to use it is you get an empty jar of jam, right? And you wash it all out, obviously, put water in it and some glitter. And then just whenever you are having a moment, you just pick it up, shake it, and just watch the glitter settle.
It's like a snow globe, isn't it?
Like a snow globe, yeah. And then, but you can put all sorts of bits in it. You can put hearts or whatever in it, make it as pretty as you like, label it up, put bows on it or whatever. But generally, just very simply a jar, water, glitter. And then when you shake it and just give yourself a moment just to watch it, people think, oh, it can't be that simple. But just remember what you're doing. You're taking yourself out of here into here. And that's
also reminded me of something we used to do at the Magic Monday meetings. You used to have empty salt and pepper shakers on the table, and we could go up and go, I'm just going to sprinkle some magic dust over me. So when you said, I thought that's what you were going to say, but obviously no, you went, it was glittering. I wouldn't want to tip a jar of water over my head, but but no, I suddenly remembered going up and sprinkling magic dust on myself. So I'm going to now go. We've got this. We've mentioned the exciting new launch of Bliss Whispers. I think that's fair to say that's an accumulation of your journey. Certainly, as I say, when I first met you, I knew you as the butterfly lady, or I knew people thought of you that way. So how can the listeners get their own little piece of bliss? How can they sign up to get your daily messages?
Oh, well, the most direct way, if you want to have a look at what it's all about, is to go to the website, which is vanessaloves.life. And on there will be all sorts of information. But on the top left, there's a button that says Bliss Whispers. If you click that, it'll take you straight through to the page. And there is a video that I recorded that explains what Bliss Whispers is, how to use it, and how it can help you to live in a more present place. And that will help you build resilience to be able to deal with what life does have to offer. But yeah, vanessaloves.life is the place to go. And then, like I say, there's top left, there's a button that says Bliss Whispers.
Right, well, I'll make sure I include that website as well in the text or the detail. And then just finally, Vanessa, how else can people work with you?
Oh, wow. It's very exciting because we've got lots of people that are interested in learning more about their emotions. So we do one-to-one coaching. We've got the Bliss Whispers. We've got meditations actually on the website as well, because sometimes people don't actually want to work directly because emotions can be so raw for people. A good starter is either doing the Bliss Whispers or the meditations. There's some sample meditations on the website as well as our first course. We've got 3 new coming out this summer as well: stress, sleep and anxiety. So watch out for those. So they are the ways that you can begin to work on this work for yourself. One-to-one coaching is obviously with me, and then we've got our masterclasses as well that are available. We've got local events, but we're planning to do a lot more online so that more people can join in.
Yeah, I did one of your masterclass. I don't know, was it this year or was it last year? A few months ago.
Last year, the naked grid.
Yes, brilliant. Yeah, I really like that.
That's actually all about emotion. That's really powerful, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I only brushed the surface on it, if I'm completely honest, but I took a couple of white golden nuggets from that.
Brilliant.
That I introduced and still use. But yeah, it's probably something that I need to delve deeper into. But I think you do it when you're ready to, aren't you? And when the time
absolutely
is right.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah, when you're ready, the teacher appears, doesn't it? And this work is definitely the teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite apt that we scheduled this interview for today, because as I've sort of said to you, Tuesday I was having a great day. Tuesday evening things started to come crashing down, and if I just paused, breathed, and felt my heart, I would have. I mean, I didn't handle it badly. I handled it very well. I was actually at my art class, and I just stopped doing the challenge that we were doing. And the other week before, we'd done neurographics, which is a type of doodling that gets your emotion onto the page. And I thought,
Nice.
right, put the paint to one side, start neurographic doodling, because you've got this emotion and you need to get it out on the page. And I just went, I've got to do some neurographic, and that was enough for everyone just to sort of like carry on painting and let me do what I had to do, sort of thing.
And it's being vulnerable enough to do that, and that's what the naked work encourages you to do, as well as being in bliss. Yeah, well done you.
So thank you very, very much for agreeing to do the interview for me and sharing in these really useful, interesting insights, and just making everybody aware that emotional well-being is separate to mental health. It's an important part of our mental health, but I really think if people work on their emotional well-being, that's going to improve their mental health alongside it. It's such important work. So thank you so much for sharing that
You're
with
welcome.
us.
You're welcome. God bless. Thanks, my lovely.
Thanks.